Hey, Mary.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
You have 4 committee members. So technically you have a quorum, but you can wait a few more minutes if you want.
Okay. Yeah, let's wait just a couple more minutes. I'm gonna run get something off the printer.
Okay.
Okay, Marley, how are we?
Hey, Mary. We're good. If you want, I'll just after you call the meeting to order, I'll just take roll so we have it on record. If you're ready or want to be ready.
Okay, I am ready. We'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. We'll let Marley help us out by calling roll for our committee members and then see who else is on the call.
Okay, so just please turn on your cameras and your mics, and I'll take roll. Ms. Mary Tarver,
Here.
Melissa Baham,
Here.
Chris Rodriguez, Tamisha Sonye,
Here.
Brenda Kose, Dr. Phil Wilson,
Hello.
and Bambi Politzola.
Here.
Okay, so you have a quorum. I'll give it to you, Miss Mary.
Okay. We have at least one new member that's pending. I don't know how that works, Marley, but Dr. Kelly Peterson is here from the Louisiana Department of Education.
Yes, I don't believe she has been officially appointed by the governor. So she is here and she's on the agenda, but she won't be included in it if there's a vote or anything.
Okay, welcome, Dr. Peterson. I'd like to welcome you to our Education and Employment Committee for the DD Council and give you a minute just to introduce yourself, if that's okay.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. Currently serve in the role of Assistant Superintendent for the Department of Equity, Inclusion, Opportunities, and specifically the Division of Diverse Learners within our office. We've had some transition for the person who used to sit on the council with you all, so I'm stepping in as of right now until we backfill that to be able to be here to share updates and information with you all, and hope to have someone physically in this seat for you all for the consistency purposes soon. So very nice to meet you and look forward to speaking with you all later.
Great, thank you, welcome. Let's see, I wanted to go over our meeting protocols. Our council meeting is going to be accessible through Zoom and live streamed on YouTube. We ask everybody on our committee and our council members to be considerate when they're presenting. You need to have your video on. Microphones need to be muted unless called upon by the chairperson. Electronically raise your hand, or I like the little wave. If I see you waving it, that works too. Once recognized by the chair, we'll ask you to speak, or if you have a comment. I know that people have been putting questions in the chat. Our guests may participate via the Zoom and YouTube. The meetings are recorded and they will be made available on the council's YouTube as determined appropriate by the chairperson. Public comments submitted during the meeting shall be, we ask you to electronically raise your hand, be recognized before speaking, make sure your microphone is on. Post comments in the chat box as relevant to the item under consideration. Post comments during the live stream of the meeting on the council's YouTube channel. Public comments of a person's character will not be heard. If the comments continue after being asked to stop by the chairperson, the council staff may be instructed to end the meeting. The chairperson will notify the executive committee of the occurrence. The council chair will seek guidance to determine if it's legally appropriate to redact or share the video of the meeting of the council's social media. So I just wanted to share that as we're in our new age of everything being on social media and being Zoom and YouTube. So with that, I will start with the agenda. Marley, Mr. Phil.
Hi, is it possible? It looks like we have quite a few guests. It would be nice if that you could introduce them or something. Just,
Sure, thank you.
Thanks.
Marley, can you see who the
Yes,
guests are?
yes. I can read the names out loud.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. We have Charlie Michel,
Good morning. I'm the Executive Director of Bioland Families Helping Families.
Kathleen Canino, Kelly Monroe, Jill Eagley, Roslyn Heimel,
1991, Visual Basic 1.0 was created. This was the first drag and drop
think
this on.
Tamara, you might want to mute.
I was trying to figure it out because it said there.
No problem. We also have Tamara Crane,
It's Tamara Crane, and I'm the executive director with the Council on Aging, but parent of a son with a disability trying to get into employment.
Thank you.
Julie Fulf, Melinda Elliott, and Kelly Monroe. And I think I should have gotten everybody.
Thank
Hey,
you.
I'm sorry, was someone calling my name?
Hey, Christy, we were just at the request of Dr. Wilson. I was just calling out the names of the guests that were at this committee meeting.
No, this was Kelly. This is Kelly. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see the name switched. I was just calling out the name of guests that were at this meeting. So you can say
Oh,
like why you're here, what you represent if you want. Some people did, some people didn't.
okay. I'm sorry. I was in another room and I heard my name, so I came and running here. I'm Kelly Monroe with the Arc of Louisiana.
All right, welcome everybody. Okay, we are going to move with the agenda on the July 20th Education and Employment Committee summary. We need a recommendation to approve or to make changes. You have to unmute, hit the little microphone. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes, the meeting summary from July 2020?
I'll make a motion. This is Bambi.
Thank you, Bambi. I need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Melissa.
Thank you, Melissa. Is there any discussion or public comment? Any objections? Any abstentions? Okay, our motion to approve the minutes has passed. Thank y'all. Okay, next on our agenda is the education update from the Louisiana Department of Education.
Mary.
Oh, Melissa, yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to leave in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was thinking that whenever I said that, but my brain's not always thinking 3 steps ahead. Okay, Melissa will go first if y'all are allow that. Thank you, Melissa. Thanks for reminding me.
No problem. Thank you for changing the agenda.
Sure.
I have to leave in about 10 minutes, but Angela Montgomery will be joining you all after that. If you have the LRS questions. But I just want to give 2 quick updates. I was asked to give a COVID-19 update. And so the only really update I have on that is that our offices are now open to the public. Some are only open by appointment only, just to make sure that we keep all the safety protocols and things in place. But if a consumer does need to meet with their counselor in person at an LRS office, they are able to do so. Many people are still electing to do virtual appointments. And so we are definitely allowing that for individuals who don't want to come physically into the office. But we have transitioned to seeing people in the office. We are starting to also see applications increase. So we're definitely seeing things move in a positive direction, because obviously in March and April, our applications completely tanked because individuals obviously were staying home and were fearful. But we are starting to see that increase. And the other update I want to give was on customized employment, because I think that's the most important thing to this committee. I think, as you all may recall, we were using LSU HDC is being trained by the University of South Florida to provide our customized employment training for our LRS vendors for that particular service. And at this point, the LSU HDC staff has completed all the online training modules. And the next final piece will involve the staff training a select group of CRP staff with mentoring and technical assistance from the University of South Florida staff. So we are definitely progressing with customized employment, and we're excited about that. Those are the two prepared updates that I have, but please feel free to ask any questions that you have about LRS at this time.
What about the how things are going? Are y'all able to do anything with the schools for the pre-employment?
Yes, I mean it varies school by school.
Excuse me.
Obviously, because different schools are at different, they have different protocols. But we are definitely collaborating with the school districts to provide pre-employment transition services.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Melissa? Or anything that we need to look at going forward for our next meeting? Anything we need to put on the agenda for Louisiana Rehab Services? Okay.
You've got 4 hands raised and a public comment.
All right. How do I see hands raised? Or you can just, if you don't mind, Marley, just, I don't see how to.
Yes. Hannah, if you see the hands raised, would you mind calling them?
Yes. Kelly Monroe.
Hey, I have a quick question. So, will people still be able to receive training through MGNA, or are you guys only interested in people receiving the certification through HDC? The council has a contract.
I'm going to let Angela correct me if I'm wrong, but we are still allowing the MGNA training. As long as that's that level of certification, we're going to allow it. But any other training, we would have to look at on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, you mean when you say that level of training, are you meaning like competency-based?
Correct, and a certification.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, because the council has another contract this coming year with them, and so we wouldn't want to continue with that contract, of course, if it was not going to be acceptable.
I would have to get an update. I wasn't aware that, unless that's the Angel. Are you familiar with this? Is this for the last cohort to finish? Okay.
Well, it's to start a new group too. So
I was not aware of that. So,
but it wouldn't be starting with discovery though, right?
Yes.
I was not aware of that.
No, I thought this was gonna be the job placement or the group that just.
We have the job development going through. Yeah, but we also are looking to send people to Mississippi to do the MGNA training in November for both for both discovery and job development. So it'd be important for us to know whether or not this is going to be accepted.
It would be accepted.
I'm sorry.
If they're going toward the certification, it would be accepted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that something that we need to put on our radar for our committee, or that's?
Well, the reason why I asked, Mary, is like I'm managing the contract, so I just wouldn't, I want to make sure that it's a very lengthy process,
Right.
And it's like a 6-month process for each one. And I don't want people to go through this big process if it's not going to count. And so that's why I ask.
Right. No, I agree. I didn't know if you needed anything from the DD Council or from our staff to make sure that we do we need to communicate that to somebody, or we need to make sure that.
I'll talk to Courtney. She's the one who manages that contract. So I'll talk to her if she's not on online right now. I'll talk to her and kind of let her know about the conversation, and then maybe we can meet with Angela or something, and we can work things out.
Okay.
Yeah, Kelly, we can talk about it later. I mean, of course, as I said, it will be accepted, but I'm sure you would want to make sure that the vendor plans to follow through before you make the investment. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we could talk about it later.
Okay.
All right, good. Thank you for your question, Kelly. Was there somebody else that had their hand raised?
Yes, we have a few more.
Okay.
Tamara Crane.
Okay, you have the floor.
Hold on. Okay. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I'm on another webinar too. So my question was to LRS, how can we actually get LRS to the table? I'm in the Bossier Parish area for my son's IEP. He has been or LRS has been invited for 2 years from the school, but they just keep telling us, well, we're going to come his last year in school. We'll step in and we'll come the last year of school. I know with COVID, a lot of the job stuff has gone away, but you know, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to truly get LRS to come and get involved.
I've noted that. I'm sorry you've experienced that, and I'll find out what the issue is.
So Melissa, will you be able to get in touch with Ms. Crane?
Yes. Is she a council? Like, do I have her contact information?
No, she's a guest.
Okay.
I don't know how best to provide the information so that y'all can follow up.
Melissa, if you tell them Tamara Crane from Bossier Council on Aging, they know me because I actually am an LRS partner. We do transportation. We actually have a working relationship with LRS, but on a personal level, I can't seem to get anybody to the table.
Right. I'll find out for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next
Hannah, was
hand
there
is-
any?
Oh, yes, there's two more.
Okay.
Charlie Michelle.
All right.
Yeah, this is a quick question. I'm going to ask a follow-up question of Dr. Peterson when she does her report. But are you noticing that a lot of employers are starting to let people back in for trainings and things like that? Because I know for the school system, there's community-based training. Y'all have your own programs. Is that opening up a little bit more?
I don't. I'm not sure. There's no trainings that I've known of recently to gauge that on. So I'm really not sure about that right now. I'd have to find out for you.
Okay, that's fine. I was just trying to get a frame of reference for when I asked Dr. Peterson the same question. Thank you. That's good.
And I am actually going to have to go right now. Now, Angela did not know she had to attend this meeting until like 10 minutes ago. So she may not be able to answer your questions, but she'll definitely take them. And I'm sorry about this. I have to go to a management meeting. But she'll definitely take back anything that she can't answer to me. And I'll definitely answer that for y'all. Okay.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Do we have another question or hand raised?
Hands are all put down, so you're good.
Okay, thank y'all. Next on our agenda is the Louisiana Department of Education. So Dr. Peterson.
Yeah. Good morning again, everyone. So wanted to provide you some updates of things that have been going on in the division that are also overlaying related to COVID-19. A couple of things, we've put out several different components of guidance over the summer months, as well as continuation of updates. One of which is this special education guidance and reopening guidance for our special education leaders, which builds off of our school reopening guidance and resources to help our school systems and educators prepare for successful reopening that met the needs of students with disabilities. And this one had documents that included guiding principles and consideration for supporting students with disabilities related to facility reopening plans, staffing plans, academic plans, and delivery of direct services across the virtual, traditional, and hybrid scenarios. We also had released guidance for direct service providers as well. And this specifically offered information for and consideration for planning and implementation of direct services during the 2020-21 school year. Again, thinking about across the virtual, traditional, and hybrid scenarios, as well as incorporating the technology and remote learning strategies alongside in-person services. We also released a family toolbox related to supporting students for students with disabilities, and making sure that we had a guide for families to, one, know their rights under the IDEA, promote health and safety, collaborate with the IEP team, prepare their students for the academic year, creating a supportive home-based learning environment for their student, as well as supporting the use of accommodation and accessibility and the instruction and direct services component. Additionally, there was also guidance that put out to support our English language learners from the division, specifically making sure that educators are providing their students with language support services across the learning scenarios, including preparation and delivery of supportive instruction accommodations, as well as frequently asked questions. Some of the other things going on in the division right now is getting ready. The high cost services departments established the high cost services grant to support school system and schools that serve students with the most challenging needs. And this grant provides additional funding for high cost special education students with disabilities, and is funded through the state's IDEA allocation and minimum foundation program, or MFP formula. And that is open, those rounds are happening now for schools to submit that information. And lastly, the alternate assessment participation. Each year, school systems that exceed the 1.0% participation in the alternate assessment must take certain actions. And those actions are outlined in the review, incorporate requirements of Bulletin 111 and the ESSA, or Every Student Succeeds Act. All school systems must review their participation data, and any school that exceeds that 1% participation must also participate in a student level file review conducted by the department, complete the alternate assessment review request document, describe how the system will address the disproportionality in participation rates, provide evidence that the IEP teams followed the state's guidelines for participation, and providing assurance IEP teams receive the training on the participation guidelines. And under the requirements of ESSA, Louisiana, we must limit the number of students who obviously are assessed statewide on alternate assessments to the 1% of the total number of students who are required to participate in those statewide assessments. We intend to seek a waiver extension for the 2020-21 school year of the federal requirement that would limit the number of the students in the state who participate in the alternate assessments. And so we had a notice of intent to submit a waiver available for public comment until October 24th, which can be found on the website. And comments may be submitted via email also to the specialeducation@la.gov to include full name and organization contact information, as well as the comment. And that concludes the updates at this time.
Okay, I did look at the alternate assessment waiver request, and I wondered, I know that this information showed the 18-19 school year, and then of course the 19-20, that I guess the tests weren't given at all. So I wondered, even before, is this related to the COVID and we needed this, or this was something that was already happening with the higher percent of the 1.0% of the eligible students that were taking the assessment? I'm just trying to see.
Yeah, good question.
Look like it was a correlation.
Yeah, so good question. So this was something that was even prior to the COVID-19 impact on assessments. I believe at that time we were at around, 1.6%. We saw then go down to 1.5, but we have to get to that 1%. So we didn't have there was no COVID-19 per se, reasoning for this waiver specifically. We're just still higher than we need to be as a state.
So then have the school systems that were at that level, did y'all already go through these processes with them on the things that they needed to be doing as part of the alternate assessment?
Yeah, so we have changed. So I guess giving context, I've been in this seat for about 2 months now. And so one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we did was if we consistently see this percentage not be at the 1%, we have to ask a couple of questions, right? We have to see like, what is the reasoning? And so the previous approach here was basically for a compliance component, and schools were deemed non-compliant if they were exceeding that level based on those file reviews. The approach that we're taking now moving forward is also building the capacity and skill behind that, because I think there also has to be the question of, do we make sure that all of our teams are, not only do we provide the guidance, but have we had the discussion and the training to make sure that they're readily prepared to be able to decrease that number. And so this year, what we are doing is creating regional office hours for each of those schools. So once these reviews, I believe the reviews, I think she might be down to like 30 more to do. But from that, the school, the superintendent and the special education leader will receive their results. And then we're also providing a regional office hour date to be able to go over that information with them, their school specific information, and strategize on how and building skills in terms of making sure that they have not only the guidance, but also the technical support to decrease that number.
Wonderful. Thank you for that update.
You have a few hands raised and a question in the chat box. I believe all for Miss Dr. Kelly.
All right. Who has their hand raised? Let's go with that one first.
Okay, Rosalind Hemel.
Okay, Rosalind.
Oh, well, she put it back down.
Okay.
So I guess we'll go to Charlie Michelle.
Okay.
Hi there. Dr. Peterson, I know that you've only been in that position for a couple of months. I was a special ed director in a local education agency for 11 years. So I just want you, as you're looking at all this stuff with the 1%, if you look at the historical perspective, I argued adamantly a few years ago when the State Department of Ed made a recommendation to lighten up the requirements to qualify for Law 1. At the time it was Law 1 for the connector test, because it felt like it was going to open it up, and we were already working on that 1%. When they opened it up, it did two things. One is it created a scenario that was going to ensure non-compliance in some districts and with the state. We tried to get them to do that. And in my opinion, it also showed a lack of expectations for students who are on the cusp. And while I understand the humane issue of trying to give them something that will work, it also gave permission for some school systems not to address the needs in as vigorous a manner as they maybe should have or could have. So as y'all are looking at that, maybe you might want to consider looking at the historical perspective for those districts that are showing out of compliance and see if there's any correlation to when Bessie took that action that was so opposed back when it happened. So I just want to give you that historical perspective, because you do not have an easy job and I appreciate it. I'm glad it's you.
Quick question. Do you happen to know, can you give me a little bit of context, or at least like date around the time when you mentioned that Bessie opened that back up, just so I have a date reference?
Let's say I've been retired for 2 years. So I want to say it was about 2, maybe 3 years before that. So maybe, what is that? Maybe 15, 16 or 16, 17. It was in that range.
Okay.
But if you call any special ed director, I bet you they can tell you exactly when it was.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson.
Thank you. All right. Did you say we had a chat?
We have 2 more hands raised and chat questions.
All right. Let's go with the hands raised.
Okay. Kathleen Canino.
Hi. So I just had a couple of things or questions, I guess. So I know in St. Tammany, that's where the parish I'm from, we have out of 55 schools, 30 of them are failing children with disability, or 27 of the 30 were failing children with disabilities. And we tried to bring it up and address it, but the school board said that we don't have any disparities and don't seem interested to look at that. And when I suggested they look at the improvement plans, they said that those didn't really matter. They were just a box to check. So year after year, it's getting worse and worse, and these children are getting left behind. And another part of it is they're sticking them in self-contained classrooms automatically instead of least restrictive environment. And they're doing it reverse. They're making them earn their way out But in the meantime, these kids are getting left behind because they're not getting quality teachers, or they're not being taught because there's only one teacher and one para and there's too many students, and there seems to be no accountability no matter what direction you go. And as a parent, it's just really frustrating, and I'm not sure what the answer is to do. I mean, we've reached out to the Louisiana Department of Education and it doesn't seem to go anywhere. So I didn't know if you had a perspective or a suggestion or.
Yeah, and just so I make sure I'm understanding, when you say they're not serving those students, are you talking about like when you're looking at like their end of year like school performance? Is that like academically the subgroup data?
Correct, yes.
Okay, got it. I mean, I think one is as parents, you know, we do have the process related to if you would like to file a grievance, we have that process to come through the LDOE for us to look through that. And so you're open to do that. I think what you are doing is trying to push into, obviously with the school at the school level for them to do that. But if you feel that you're not getting anywhere on that place, I think the next step is to look at going through the grievance process so that we can push in.
And thank you.
Thanks.
All right. What about, do we have another hand?
Yes, we have a few
Okay.
more, and Miss Saunier on the committee also has her hand raised.
Okay. Let's start with Tamisha.
I prefer if it's okay to go last.
Okay.
So I can hear other attendees, you know, at request, if that's okay. Because
Yes,
you know,
ma'am.
as I get more feedback, it's gonna help with my question. Thank
Okay. All right. So we'll go to the next hand raised.
Okay, that's Miss Rosalind.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I've been trying to hit the microphone. I couldn't get it the first go around it. But the question is for you, is for me today, I have an ISP in that where I am. So I really want to find out how can I go about going into my meeting in the parish that I am in. Then the parish I am in is Jefferson Parish. And so I know I got myself into a little, how can I say it? Trouble. And behind for what I did wrong.
Well, Rosalind, yeah. Rosalind, let's see if somebody from the DD Council can help, and we'll reach out to you.
Well, because when I'm saying that, it's like with what I'm trying to say is with other schools, do they have like other IEPs? Is that like a ISP meetings, or is it the same way? Is what I'm trying to ask. With other schools.
Right. I think after.
That's what I'm trying to say. And
Yeah,
I just used myself as an example.
IEPs are only for students that are still in school. So once you're out of school.
Well, this is like Magnolia Communities. Yeah. And Magnolia was a school at one time. They just had changed the name over to Magnolia Community Services. Is why I'm saying.
I don't know the answer then to help you. I want to make sure that that we help you get the answer that you need, but I don't want you to go into great detail about you know, what's going on with you personally.
Right. That's why I'm trying to leave out some.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to leave out some details on it.
Okay.
With the question I was really asking is about the IEP. Is that with different other states having the same, like with high schools or with college or in elementary schools as well? Do they have to go through the same process? Is what I'm asking.
Miss Mary, can I have permission to speak?
Yes, ma'am.
So Rosalind, you know what I think we maybe should do is I can get Courtney Ryland, she's acting as the executive director right now, but she's also kind of our education expert. Do you want me to have her call you or email you?
Yes, I would like that.
And then I
Very
think
much so.
she will be able to talk through that with you and be able to help you more. And then that way in this setting, we can stay on the agenda.
Yeah, that's fine with me because I don't know if the agenda has to do something with the paperwork that I'm reading.
Yeah.
Is this coming from the packet that I have and I'm reading?
So the packet, the council packet that was mailed out, I don't think has anything about this committee meeting in it.
Oh, okay. That's what I wanted to find out.
I got you. So that's for the full council meeting, which is tomorrow. But I'm going to have Courtney reach out to you.
Okay, then that's what I wanted to know. And that's why I kind of came in. I wanted to see how, you know, it kind of, you know, to feel.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Rosalind.
Thank you, Rosalind. We'll follow up. We'll follow up with you.
We will.
Thank you, Marley. Okay. Where are we? Are we ready to go to the chats now?
You have 2 more hands raised.
Okay.
Miss Karanda Corley.
All right. Miss Corley.
Great morning, Madam Chair and committee. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to speak, and I apologize for the noise that you hear in the background. I'm actually in my car with my child for therapy services. I want to first start off because my questions and comments are to Dr. Peterson. By you being one of the chairs for the Inequity Disparities Task Force that LDOE recently created, it really disheartens my heart. It sickens me in my stomach that was not something that you actually spoke to today. Because Representative Carter has spoken time and time again at the Education Committee hearings in regards to Orleans Parish directly failing our children with disabilities, more particularly our children that are English language learners and our children with disabilities that are indigenous, Black, and brown children. And being one of the chairs of that task force, I just really thought that you would bring some light on that issue. Secondly, our LDOE has been making changes to the bulletins every single day. Every single day they have a different change to the guidance. Every single day there's a different change to the bulletins. Every single day there's more and more conflict. That conflict that does not help our children with disabilities. We have Jefferson Parish School System that has been in the light 4 times now for having children, indigenous, Black, and brown children being expelled and represented for expulsion for things that are happening on the virtual schools, yet that's not being addressed right now in this committee from LDOE. And so I'm looking at how EBR school system just had a child take a bus, according to the news media, stole the bus, but they failed to mention that this was a child in our developmental disabilities community. So when I talk about these school system failures, I'm talking about that I don't see anything that LDOE is doing to address how child find is definitely not finding a child. None of our children are being found by child find. None of these assessments are being done correctly or adequately, and nothing that LDOE is putting in place is addressing these issues. So again, that's another failure by LDOE. And so I want to see some things that you can tell me, Dr. Peterson, that is going to make me have some confidence in that LDOE is not forgetting our children with disabilities. Because too many times we have had children with disabilities that are being abused and neglected in the school system. Yet that wasn't something you spoke about. They are being put in seclusion and restraint. You're not saying anything about that. I just want something to be said, even with these basic minimum requirements that we have. Nothing is addressed about these accommodations and modifications that are not being provided by these school systems. So when I think that LDOE is supposed to come to a committee that is based on education and employment, I want to hear something about how Louisiana Department of Education is not only addressing these constant problems that are reflected in the numbers from the data that LDOE has, but I also want to hear how LDOE is trying to have a solution, a real workable solution. That's not something that was presented today from you. I also did not hear anything as far as in what kind of collaborations LDOE is doing with organizations within these communities to try to resolve these issues. We have entirely too many issues where LDOE just continue to come to this committee and they say some pretty words and they actually fail to do anything. And so when Dr. Charlie mentioned things that he has actually spoken on and tried to get resolved by LDOE, and yet that went nowhere, it still has not been resolved, I would like to hear that LDOE is going to make some real progress as far as in having a real workable group from this community, reflective of different parishes, so that not only are our voices heard, but that there is a real resolution. And so I would really like for Dr. Peterson to speak on how we can actually have some real resolutions to all of the problems that have been spoken on this committee thus far. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Corley. And, you know, I want to say as the chairperson for the committee before I ask if Dr. Peterson has some comments, but, you know, we've had some new leadership in Louisiana Department of Education. We have had today's the first day, and Dr. Peterson is actually filling in for a person who had, you know, had been on the committee for just, I think, 1 or 2 meetings. So we definitely have had some changes, and I know that Department of Education has been working on lots of different changes. So, and today was on the agenda to kind of give an update and kind of get us at a starting point. Some of the points you brought up are certainly not things that are going to be, you know, quickly resolved or solved, but certainly things that I'm sure that Louisiana Department of Education will be working on. So I would ask if Dr. Peterson has anything that you'd like to address. And if not,
yeah, thank you. I think first I'll start with, I'm not sure of the task force that we're referring to. So I would love to follow up with you, Ms. Corley, offline to figure out what we're talking about there. Secondly, as it relates to where we are with LDOE and where we are specifically with the Division of Diverse Learners, one of the things that's coming in was really trying to see what and how the department was currently set up and structured. We had special education policy and we had intervention strategy. I am very clear. Let me also say that I'm not a special educator by trade. Educator, yes, not special education. And so what we needed to do was really begin to, and Dr. Brumley did this as well, is having various stakeholder engagements and conversations with our families, parents, and advocacy groups to understand the special education services that were or were not happening, be it in the systems, as well as what was left to be desired related to our teachers and practitioners. And so what we are doing right now is really trying to inventory all of that to begin to make a huge shift related to how we work within the department as it relates to serving our practitioners and making sure that, one, we also are building the capacity. Again, we were previously operating with special education policy and intervention strategy, but as we know, there are other elements to special education and supporting our students with exceptionalities that are not necessarily defined in those 2 categories. And so right now it's about building a team and restructuring and reorganizing to be able to make sure that, again, we are building capacity at the systems level. The LDOE, because we very clearly recognize we are not interacting with kids on a day-to-day basis, but what we do is actually create the conditions for our school and our systems to be successful. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that we are set up and strategically set up in order to intentionally provide the support that our practitioners need in all of the phases of making sure they can support students with exceptionalities outside of just our intervention strategy and our SPED policy. So that right there for us is like, and me and the team and building a team, let me also be clear, which is I'm sitting here because we have had several transitions and turnover within this department, is trying to get educators and expertise in this office specifically to do that and to be able to reach out and reach down to our practitioners and be able to support them. I think as it relates to, so there's a lot of work to do. I acknowledge that, I recognize that, and we are trying to do that. The first step is restructuring in a way that makes the most sense to serve the field. And I'll send my email address to you. I just received your information in the chat, Ms. Corley.
Thank you. I know that this is a building time and rebuilding time, and we appreciate that you've come here today for our committee meeting and look forward to working with y'all on different projects and to pass information along and certainly be part of the stakeholder group for the Louisiana Department of Education, especially when it comes to our developmental disabilities community. So thank you. All right.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Sonia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a quick question, not my question that I had initially, but since Dr. Peterson mentioned the restructuring and regrouping of Louisiana Department of Education, which I'm excited about, and thank you. Is there a target date or idea of when you think y'all, the department, will have the people you mentioned in place? Because I like the idea that we're working towards it, but I would like to see, I guess I'm looking for, as well as other parents probably would be looking for, like a general idea of when the department thinks they will have those directors, leaders, and like you said, the new bodies in place to be able to, you know, have these transitions go on. Like, are we looking at a 6-month process? And I know you don't have an exact date, but you know, more or less like, what's the time frame, you know, that so parents can kind of know, you know, what we're looking at the end of the, you know, end of next year, you know, that type of thing. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think there's twofold. Like, if I could say tomorrow, I would tell you tomorrow, just to be able to like make sure that we have people in place, right? Because we are lean in the Division of Diverse Learners right now. But I think that because we are trying to make such a systemic shift to the way it was to where we're going, I don't want us to rush and just hire to have people either. And so it's really trying to also do a lot more conversations and alignment with like, what is it that we actually are looking for in terms of those areas of expertise, and what is it the field actually needs from us in terms of being able to have on staff. We are only working with a certain number of human capital that we can replace as we have these transitions to happen. So it's taking us not just to be able to just repost the job as is, it's really trying to calibrate to figure out what is the right role, since we only, you know, a 1-for-1 kind of trade out, I would say. And so I'm hesitant to tell you like a time frame, just because I don't necessarily know based on how long it takes us to post, to repost, to find, to interview, and all of those pieces. And so ideally sooner than later, honestly. But I would say definitely a couple of months. As it relates to anything though with families, I don't want to say that like families need to be on hold from being able to have expectations for us and the need for us. Like, we will still figure that out and tap into who we need to make sure that we support families. This is more so the restructuring also to support like our practitioners in the field and how we can do that. But if families have concerns, issues, grievances, and all of those pieces, they can continue to follow the process, and we will make sure that those answers get to them in a timely manner.
Thank you. All right, do we have any other hands raised or comments? that we have?
Yes, Mr. Charlie Michelle has his hand raised, and we have a few chat comments.
All right, Mr. Charlie.
Hi there again. Kelly, I just have one question for you, but before I do want to make a statement. I have to say, and this is coming out of my mouth as surprising to me as anybody else, but I have to say that since Kate has gotten the job, some of the decisions that he's made to fill positions like you have, I think have been very encouraging. For the first time in a long time, I feel like the Department of Education is actually working in a direction that's right for the state of Louisiana. We've got, it took John White 9 years to disassemble special education in the Department of Ed. So that you can't commit to a time frame, I think is reasonable, because we don't want to hire people who know the political process and don't understand the education process. So for me to say that it's encouraging, I have to, and Cade has earned that with his work in DeSoto and in Jefferson. He's earned that trust and faith. So I believe that if y'all take the time you need to do it right, I'm not exactly sure what direction y'all want to go in, but I have faith that the direction is a good one. So I just want to tell you that your job is not going to be easy, but slow and steady wins the race. And it's going to take a little while to earn the trust of people back, but y'all will get there if y'all do what I think y'all are going to do. So I applaud y'all for that. And if there's anything I can do to help, I will be more than happy to do that. Okay. Now, no, thank you. Now, my question is, because of COVID, and I had asked this of LRS earlier, because of COVID, a lot of employers have really stopped allowing training sessions and all in their businesses. Is the State Department able to give some sort of guidance to school systems who need to provide that community-based training experience for the students, especially with significant disabilities? Is there something that y'all can do to provide them with alternatives or meaningful activities that will replace that until businesses are really more willing to allow extra people in? And that's my question. I'll just listen. So I'll mute myself, which is not fun for me either because I like to talk. Sorry.
No problem. One, thank you for your comment previously. And I think that's a question I don't know the answer to right now, but can definitely circle back and see if that was one embedded in any of the guidance that had went out previously. And if not, where we can go to make sure that we can support that and provide guidance.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. And Charlie, for your comment. Okay. Hannah, where are we? We're chatting.
We have a hand raised from Tiffany Rainwater.
All right. Miss Rainwater?
Yes. Hi, how are y'all today? I kind of got in on the last of the last 20 minutes, and then I had some phone calls come in. But I have a daughter that is 11 years old. We're from Ragley, Louisiana. She is diagnosed with Angelman syndrome and Prader-Willi syndrome. I'm still, every day is a learning process for me. But we were completely wiped out by Laura, and she had a communication device that helped her speak and everything. And I was just wondering if y'all knew what I could do in order, because I've contacted FEMA. I mean, we have not gotten no help, none. And with her being special needs and us losing our whole house, you would think that, somebody would step up. And but I've contacted everybody, and I keep getting dead ends.
So, have you checked with LeCan yet? Louisiana.
I think we did. I was just on the website for the Department of Health or for the Medicaid and stuff like that, and they had said something on there, and it's just been a constant. I'm so overwhelmed, like my head hurts constantly because I don't know what.
So I would recommend, Tiffany, that you contact LeCan, and I'm sorry, I can't remember what the C stands for, but Louisiana C Assistive Technology Network. Help me, okay. Who knows? But we'll get. I'm sure that one of us can forward you their contact information. In the meantime, if you want to send me P Wilso2, PWILSO2 at LSU.
It's PWLISO2.
At LSUHSC.edu. If you have a record of what the specific technology is or was that your daughter used,
yes.
If you can send that to me, I work with a number of people who do things with assistive tech, and they
Yes,
may have a way to identify somebody's old machine that they've outgrown.
Yeah. Because this was just like, we just bought this, not this past income tax, but what was it, 1819 or 1920 income tax. And me and my ex-husband, we got together and everything, and we purchased it. Not, and Medicaid didn't cover it, anything. And we had a home-based one, and then we had a carry one where she could carry with her. And I think the total was like $3,600, something like that, close to it. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And FEMA stated that if I could, put it in, deemed necessary for her to have it from her doctor, stating her disability and that she has it to need, and she needs it for everyday communication and everyday living, that it's a necessity, that they would reimburse me. I do not see FEMA reimbursing me this.
Yeah. Miss Rainwater, we will work. I think Mr. Wilson has offered to.
Miss Mary, you're muted.
Sorry. I was going to say that there was some information from Mr. Phil that will help you. And I see in the chat that the Southwest Louisiana Families Helping Families, Miss Susan put the phone number there, that you could reach out to them so that we can make sure that that you can get, the help that you need, and appreciate.
I sure do appreciate it very much, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
And Miss Mary, I'm just going to remind you, because we switched the agenda and LRS and LDOE representatives were so kind to be flexible with that. Dr. Peterson is she has to leave at 11:10. So we only have about 4 more minutes with her.
Okay. All right. Were there any other chats? I think some of the chats we've already covered.
Susan Reen has her hand raised, and I believe Kathleen Canino has something in the chat.
All right.
I just had my hand raised to make sure that Miss Rainwater knew to contact us at Families Helping Families Southwest. That's all. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Susan. All right. Anything else in the chats that we need to talk about?
Miss Kathleen Canino says St. Tammany has a tremendous backlog for child find, and those children are being left behind and suffering because of it. I appreciate the suggestion for filing complaints or due process, but that goes nowhere, and there is no follow-up, and it requires lawyers, which cost parents money they don't have.
The grievance policy that I was referring to earlier was specifically between the LDOE, and so that is at no cost to the parents, nor does it require any attorneys. It's actually through our attorney process, our special education attorneys, and so that is a way that we can support that, but it's not a cost of parents. What I was referring to specifically.
And I think there's a link on the LDOE page about that specifically, that process. All right, Tamisha.
Make sure I'm muted. I don't know Miss Canino's idea with what she's stating, but I believe what she's referring to, Dr. Peterson, is that whenever parents use the Louisiana Department of education's grievance process. And I know this was before you came. So I think it's just some to put, on your radar going forward, that once the grievance process was done with parents, that there was no resolve. And then anything that had to be done beyond that, they had to get attorneys to kind of push the issue to get some resolution. So I guess what Ms. Canino is trying to say, because that's what I've gotten from several parents across, in different regions, that once they've tried the process with the Department of Education and there was no resolve, they had to take it further to get things done. And so I guess looking at it from a systemic thing, with new administration, if I'm understanding right, she's wanting to see if anything will be done, because at that point, parents are not able to go any further than that grievance process without getting a personal attorney when nothing is done at the school level. I think that's what she means.
Got it. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Quick question, clarifying question there. When you said that there's no resolve, is it a situation where there's no finding at the end of the grievance process on our end, or is like there no communication that's happening, like to loop back to say what did happen?
What I've found and what I do know personally is that when a finding is found, there's, I think they have cap requirements, and then there's no accountability. There's no follow through with the cap. And then the school kind of gives some information, or that they've, just, I guess you could say, tap or whatever they need to with the cap. And then it's just dropped, and the families continue to have issues, and there's just no, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's no follow through after that. It's like the requirements are met, that the cap report was done, and then nothing is really done. Say like, for example, if the school has to evaluate all these kids or evaluate a certain child, they do the evaluation, it's thrown together, and I'm just giving an example, and then it's dropped, nothing else happens. And because the school has done the quote unquote evaluation, they feel like they've met the burden of the cap. You get what I'm saying? And then the child is really not helped. The children are not being, there's no follow through of that process. Like, I think if that's what I'm seeing pattern wise, that parents are stating is happening. And I think that's where the frustration comes in. And then they feel like, okay, I'm pressed to go get an attorney because the process that I've tried, statewide, is not really getting in results. We're not moving, we're not moving the bar. So that's what I believe is happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this up. This will be another place to continue to push on and to look into. I will say the other part is, I know that it's also frustrating to families is just the general, as well as practitioner, the general email box. So we are working on that so that there's actually like interaction of a person. I know personally, I hate calling those automated numbers and having to constantly press 0. And that's what I know that mailbox feels like, because you're not getting a genuine human being to be able to like walk you through the process. So we are working on that too.
Thank y'all. Thank you, Dr. Peterson, for being here today. We look forward to working with you, and for the staff that will be permanently assigned to us. We'll be happy for that. And so if there's anything for our DD Council, when we have our Education and Employment Committee meetings, we want to hear those hot topic things, the things that y'all want to hear back from and get input from families. And so the agenda really is set for you to help us understand what's going on too. So we certainly want to make sure that we're able to give you the opportunity to talk about things, present information, data, whatever you feel that would be able to help us. And I know we're always going to have a lot of questions for you. That just tends to be kind of how our group goes, but we like to try and be able to put those kind of in categories and make it where it's comfortable for you, and you're don't feel like we're bombarding you with lots of information and questions that you have an opportunity to be prepared and answer. So we appreciate you very much.
No problem. Thank you. And I'll just say, would appreciate to, just so for those of you in terms of like even putting together what we were reporting today was really more so looking at what had been prepared before you all. And so trying to get an idea of what that was. And it seemed like there was a lot of updates provided to you. But if we, I will say, I think that it is it's useful to be in this space to hear all of this. I appreciate the feedback. Don't shy away from it at all. And however we can continue to make sure that we are sharing the relevant information to this conversation. I want to be helpful. So I do apologize that it was just like a run-of-the-mill updates. It was literally, I appreciate you all sharing with me the reports that have been provided to you previously because I didn't have anything to work from. And so wanting to make sure we got that out, but moving forward, even if you all have items that, that were discussed today that we can prepare for next time, I have no problem doing that, as well as any, I know I'm getting ready to jump off, but any other things that come up throughout the duration of the meeting that fall within the LDOE scope. If I can just get an email, that way we can work on that. But definitely, want to be able to utilize this, one, to inform you all, but also, to make sure that it's relevant to the topics and things that you all want to hear as well. So thank you all for having me today.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson.
All right. Do we have any other hands up or any other comments that we need to talk about?
No, ma'am, no hands raised.
Okay.
Oh, Bambi has her hand raised, actually.
Bambi. Bambi.
Or maybe not.
We're going on a tour. Yes, Bambi. This is Bambi, but it doesn't look like Bambi. Is that Rosalind?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I know I look a little different with my mask on, so I'm sorry about that. This is like the first time me being with y'all, and I'm just learning what y'all are about and that. So I want to learn more. So I feel, a little lost, so you have to excuse me about it.
Well, we are glad to have you, and we hope you'll come to get to come to all of our meetings. We have fun every time.
Well, I do. But the question is, how can I get y'all's packet to, to join in with y'all besides the one I'm on? That's what I want to really find out coming from you, Ms. Mary.
Yes, ma'am. We can make sure that you get the agenda and the packet information. I think that the council staff asked that information as we're getting ready for meetings in the past, and I know that I've seen that question come, but if they know that you want paper copies of stuff, they can send it.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about.
Okay.
How can I go about that? Because I have the other packets, from my group. So I wanted to, kind of find out what could I do of going with y'all.
Okay. Well, we will ask Marley to see if she can put you on the list and make sure that you get paper.
Yes.
I really want that because I'm enjoying what I'm really I want your input as well, because from both groups I'm getting good input from both. So I want to do more, reach out more. I don't know, does that make any sense?
Yes. So what I'll do is I will get with Hannah. Hannah is the person who does all that work, printing and organizing and making packets. And I'll make sure that in your packet next time, you also have the Education Employment Committee information.
Yeah, because I want to stay in the other group too, but I want to, kind of bring out as well. Would it really be a conflict if I do both? Or should I just do one?
No, I don't think it's a conflict. You can sit in on any council meeting, for sure.
Because that's why I kind of get my hand up. Oh, that's my question.
Well, we will send you the education and employment stuff.
Please, I would really welcome Mary. Really would.
All right, good to see.
I would love it.
All right, Hannah or Marley, anything else?
Hannah, I'm gonna defer.
Yes, you have a chat from Tamara. She said,
Okay.
please let Dr. Peterson know regression in the job supports area of education is not being addressed in the state's, quote, strong start COVID response for schools. Specifically, students with special needs that lost employment supports due to COVID and regressed in job placement are not identified as a, quote, regression. Only academic issues were part of the regression look back.
Thank you. And I think the comments that are being put in the chat box, are y'all able to capture those, and then we'll have those moving forward to share if we need to organize them to get feedback?
So the comments
Mm-hmm.
that are typed into the chat, I'm just
Right.
copying and
Yeah.
pasting them in our meeting summary.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you. Okay, our agenda. All right, the next thing on our agenda was if there was any announcements. Anybody has any announcements? Marley, do we have any new people that are going to be on the Education and Employment Committee? I think they said that there were 3 new
So
committee members.
right now, I don't have any new ones that are on. If they're, Hannah is the one that would know that.
Okay.
She deals with the appointments from the governor. So can you speak on that, Hannah, or are you prepared?
Yes, I can. What Randall suggested for the new members was that they come to the different meetings this week to try them out before they made a decision on which committee they'd like to join. So I'm not sure if any are on today to this meeting, but I know that was what they were suggested, was take this week, figure out which meetings, what committees you'd like to join, and to let him know. So you might possibly have new members for the next one.
Okay. Do you know who the 3 new people are?
Yes. Let me pull them back up. I know one is Rashad Bristow. One of them, sorry, I'm pulling it up, Nicole Banks. And the other is Miss Jill Eagley.
Okay, perfect. Well, good. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Hannah.
Any other announcements?
Miss Mary, do you want me to share the announcement about activities for federal fiscal year 2022?
Okay, yes.
Okay. So before we adjourn, this is usually the meeting historically in October where we remind you all to start thinking of ideas and activities that you would want the council to consider including in its federal fiscal year 2022 action plan. That plan will start October 1, 2021. And as I understand it, historically at the January Education Employment Committee meeting, which is our next meeting, we will discuss ideas that you all bring, and we'll have the opportunity to make recommendations for the council to consider sending to the planning committee. And then in April, we usually come back with research. In July, the council votes on a draft of the plan, and the plan is ratified and begins October 1, 2021. So that's the process it's usually taken historically, as I understand it. So this is kind of a reminder for everybody to start thinking of that, maybe doing some research. When we have our next Education Employment Committee meeting, that will be on the agenda if Miss Mary is okay with it. And we'll go through ideas that you all bring for federal fiscal year 2022.
And yesterday in our executive committee meeting, we talked about our 2021 legislative advocacy kickoff recommendations. And in the end, I think that we, or we did vote, which will be presented tomorrow to the full council, but the Families Helping Families and LeCan leaders had recommended 3 things, and it was cameras in special education classrooms and parent access to school videos, an additional $500,000 in state funding to the DD Council budget for Families Helping Family Centers, and funding for direct support worker wage increases. And so those 3 things were discussed, and the executive committee did finally make a decision and was going to move forward with the recommendations. So that'll be presented tomorrow in the full council meeting. But I just wanted to let y'all know that one of the advocacy agenda items was about the cameras in special education, which I'm sure our committee will be following. Okay.
I just have a comment about that.
Yes, sir.
I made these comments before when this first came up. I'm not opposed to having cameras in special ed classrooms. I'm not opposed to having them in general ed classrooms. I'm concerned if people think that putting a camera in a classroom is actually getting at solving the problem. The problem is we don't have properly trained and paid teachers in our state, particularly in special ed. The number of special ed teachers, certified special ed teachers, is embarrassing and sort of just unconscionable that our state has systematically, starting a few administrations back, like taken away higher ed programs to prepare personnel. There's no severe disabilities program. I guess UNO is trying to restart a small program now, but there's nowhere to get certified in our state for kids, programs that serve kids with very significant disabilities, whether they're deaf, blind, severe intellectual disabilities, so on. And it leads to people being in charge of classrooms and programs that really are not prepared to do that, So if we're going to invest in cameras, okay, but I don't know what that investment turns out to be, but if we don't invest in training and continuing ed, when I say training, I mean personnel preparation, college degree programs, then we are just putting Band-Aids on the problem. So I hope that made some sense, and I hope there's some consideration of, okay, if we do this, let's not just all the legislators think, okay, we've heard you, we checked your box, we bought you cameras.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. I think that we did have a lot of discussion about that yesterday, and one of the things that that Marley had mentioned was about the action plan, and there are some things that we could take from the Families Helping Families and LeCan meetings that they had with parents, and there's a whole section about education, and one of those was about not having enough teachers and those kinds of things. So we will be looking at things that we can put on our action plan to help us with some of those things. So thank you for saying that. Tamisha?
I just want to chime in real quick. I agree with you, Dr. Phil, and I appreciate that. But I also want to consider the looking at it twofold with the cameras. I kind of compare it to the situation. At times, I completely agree with the fact that we don't have trained, teachers in the classroom, especially special education teachers. And I don't believe that the cameras will correct that. Well, we all know it won't correct that issue. But what it does give us is some concrete data to go by. Because we all know that a lot of times we have to show what impact we are monitoring things, but having those cameras also show what triggered some behaviors in situations with the students. It could be also used as a tool amongst the educators and the systems to help address some of those issues that are happening. Because I don't want to always attach it, because I think at times people attach the cameras to something bad, but it also, or as a fix-all. Like you're saying, we know it won't, but to some parents and some people, it is also a tool that can be used to, they had people that advocated for how it helped the teachers. It helped them see what triggered the students to go off into certain behavior patterns, or how the teachers addressed it, or what changes needed to be made. Because we all know, it's almost like I compare it to sports. When you play sports and they had you sit down and review the tape, it's the same scenario. You can only make those corrective actions. And then sometimes some people are visual, people, and they need to see what's happening. So I'm in favor of it personally. I know everyone isn't, but I'm in favor for the right reasons, if you get what I'm saying. But I agree completely with you that it's not going to be a fix-all, and that we can't let our legislators believe that just giving the cameras is going to be sufficient. We need to incorporate it with training and allow that to work in the favor of doing what's in the best interest of the students completely, and the educators.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Mr. Phil?
Tamisha, well stated. Really, that was right on, exactly right. I think what you said. I also had a senior moment earlier when I was talking with Miss Tiffany. I was trying to think of Lacan, and I kept saying Lacan. So I do know what Lacan stands for, or used to stand for. I know we sort of like Prince, it's sort of morphed, but Louisiana Citizens for Action now. But anyhow, so Lacan, Louisiana Assistive Technology Network. So my embarrassment, but at least I remembered it before I went home tonight.
No, you did fine. Thank you so much for your input. That's what we're here for. That's what it's about. So
that's right.
We all got to get together to come up with something to help move us forward. And I appreciate your input as well. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right. Anything else for announcements? I see the chats are agreeing with your comments. And we'll work on trained teachers. And so I'm kind of paraphrasing everybody's comments. I hope you don't mind. Okay. Then I think if we don't have any other comments that need to be discussed today, or any other announcements, that I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn, if y'all agree.
I'll make a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
Thank you, Tamisha. I have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Melissa. All right, well then we will see everybody tomorrow. Is our council meeting is tomorrow during the day, so we'll see y'all then. Thank y'all.